Syria's army says it has ceded control of the city of Hama to advancing rebel forces. The rapid progress made by Syrian insurgents increases the threat to President Bashar al-Assad's hold on power. Bloomberg's Onur has been following developments for us. Quite a complicated situation given how many players have been involved or have troops present on the ground in Syria. But let's just talk about the specific significance of Hama falling. What could happen from here?
Well, as you said earlier, Jumana, the fall of Hama increases the risk to Bashar al-Assad's government because of the fact that it basically falls halfway between Aleppo, where the latest round of advance began, and Damascus, where the government is stationed. But it also raises further questions, and they are equally important. That's about the ability and possible willingness for Russia and Iran, two main supporters of Bashar al-Assad since the civil war began in 2011, to provide further assistance to him. The advance and the pace of that advance and how vulnerable the Syrian army, Bashar al-Assad's forces, has proven to be since the latest round of advance began, raises questions about the possibility that Russia and Iran might step in to provide further assistance to Assad, and that's a huge factor to take into account when assessing the future of al-Assad and his element in Syria.
Yeah, well, during the Syrian civil war, we know that Hezbollah fighters came to the aid of Assad. And I thought it was interesting yesterday to hear from the new Secretary General, Naim Qassem. He mentioned in his speech that they would be supportive of Assad, but unclear how exactly that's going to happen, given Hezbollah themselves are so weakened by the developments over the last couple of months. So that raises the question of who exactly is going to come to Assad's aid. We know that Iran's proxies around the region are on the back foot. Iran itself is on the back foot, engaged in this hot, cold war with Israel. And Russia, who also came to the help of Assad during the civil war, are embroiled in Ukraine. So who is Assad going to rely on?
That's a great point. Both those two supporters, Russia and Iran, are in no way as strong as they were about a decade ago, which is exactly when they turned the tide of the war in favor of Assad between 2014 and 16. So now, if Assad has to rely on those two, the problems are as follows. For Iran, it's becoming increasingly difficult to send militia, the proxies that it supports from Iraq into Syria. We've seen resistance from the likes of al-Assad, in fact, just yesterday. So that route, even if it's not close, it's not as functional as it used to be. On the other hand, Russia never had a huge amount of ground forces in Syria, but relied primarily on air support for Syria's own forces, al-Assad's own forces. But the problem is those forces have been collapsing at an unexpected pace, both in Aleppo and then later around Hama. So it's unclear, A, how much support that Iran's support can possibly provide, and B, even if they do come close to the kind of support they provided about a decade ago, it is just unclear how effective that support might have been because of the fact that Syria's own army, Bashar al-Assad's own forces, have proven to be basically collapsing in the face of the rebel advance.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me just ask you also about whether this insurgent success is giving rise to other insurgency moves within Syria. And also here specifically, I'm talking about some of the Turkish-backed groups in the northern part of the country. What are we seeing there? And again, Onur, how likely is it that Turkey get involved in the situation this time around?
I think quite a few different players are taking advantage of the current shifts underway in Syria. As you said, even when we talk about the rebels' advance, HTS, yes, is a leading force, but they're not really the only force. Now, because of the fluidity in terms of how the rebels and opposition in Syria has worked over the last 13, 14 years, it's difficult to designate each group and sort of attribute them to a certain camp. But yes, certainly Turkey-backed groups, especially in the northwest, have been a lot more active than they were over the last basically 4 years. We have seen Turkish forces take over Tel Rifat, and probably Manbij is the next in line, where there were pockets of US-backed Kurdish forces. Turkey likes to call them YPG, the US likes to call them PYD or SCF. And we have seen also the Kurdish forces trying to move further south and east, possibly towards the east of Euphrates again, where they have similar forces there to take care of areas or to increase their dominance in areas around there as well. So yes, a lot of forces, including Turkey, are taking advantage of the shifts underway in Syria to lock in gains.